Welcome back to another episode of Art with George. We're going to continue working on Butch. I did a lot of work on the basic penciling of this, but now we're going to really hone it down. The reason I spend so much time on the penciling part of it is when I go to ink, the less mistakes I have to worry about, the better. And I think a lot of people who do caricatures just go straight to whatever. I'm very meticulous about the detail. I treat everybody with a great regard, and I hate to do a caricature of them and to have them not like it. So what we're going to do today is actually work on it on an easel. I'm going to darken the outline just a little bit more. The reason I do this finely is just to make sure that when I go to ink, it's going to be as close to what I want as possible. Now, I kind of lightly pencil the basic idea. What I'm going to show tonight is a little bit more that is really like 100%. So when I ink it, it's going to be so accurate. Now, when it comes to shading, I'm not going to actually shade it with, let's say, wash. I'll use stipple. I'll show you what will happen when I do that. There's only 2 or 3 ways you could do ink to show shading. Let's say a lessening of light, more of light, and that is to stipple is one way. Dots. I don't like wash much. If I was going to do this in a watercolor, I probably would use wash. Now, having done this the way I have, the next step is this. I'm actually put some shadow. It's up to me. It's not up to anybody. I'm not looking at a reference. So pretty much can go with whatever I want. And knowing that a shirt's got nice little creases and folds, I'll put those in. For every ante, there's a plus. For every fold, for every crevice, there's something that sticks out. I'm using an HB pencil. Tonight I'm using an actual mechanical pencil. Just to show you that I'm flexible. A mechanical pencil is really what I use at home more than anything else. I use the standard pencils more for my students because I think that's what they could afford, and I want them to understand which pencils are good, which ones are not. Also, as far as brands are concerned, I don't want them being too dependent on buying the right brand, thinking it'll make a better drawing. It still is in the hand of the artist as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to flesh out the body tonight. I'm going to finish the bonsai plant, but you notice I'm working from right to left. If I did this and went back over it, I tend to smudge it if I did that. Don't want to do that. So what you're going to see tonight is a great deal that's being done in the way I'll finish it. Now with pen and ink, it might not necessarily be the way, but pencil, the more your hand goes over an area, the more it tends to smudge. I want to make this pencil just a little bit more tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel it to a nice fine tip. That's going to be pretty good. Now, inside this area, between the apron and the arm, we could do the same thing. We could have folds in the shirt, shade between where the arm is and where the shirt happens. I also bought a stump with me. And this is an easy way to blend. It's just for information's sake, so when I actually get to putting in stipple with my pen, I won't have to think too much. It's going to be all pretty much processed for me. There is a lot of thought with this, and a lot of it is spontaneous. You don't just sit there and I don't like using a machine to blow up my imagery. I do it all by myself. It's going to have real depth now. A lot of depth. The shirt actually looks real. Put a little shadow underneath his chin. Obviously it displaces such a thing as depth. Now, the collar. I was fiddling around with the idea, and I like the idea of putting a lot of shadow underneath parts of it. I have to say, I think I did a pretty good job on Butch's face. I had this at my house, sitting on an easel, and 2 or 3 of my students noticed me. They said, "My God, we've gone inside the store, we know who he is." That's a pretty good compliment. I like when a caricature is done and people know immediately. They don't have to squint or make guesses. The sad part is too many caricatures done today are not done accurately. They're pretty much sloppy. And it's pretty much up to you to have to discern what's going on. And I don't think it shouldn't be made that hard. We'll also finish the plants today. But like I said, I'm going from right to left. Fun part is when you see the transition from pencil to ink. That's going to be interesting. Here we go again. I got to sharpen up just a bit. I'm going to do the arm now. This is fun. The arm, the thing you have to remember is it's flesh, and you still have to show a little of the muscle taking over, and yet you still have to show a little bit of the bone action. So, having drawn the basic idea of the arm, I did a pretty good idea of the basic shaping. But now you got to really flesh it out and make it look real. So I'm going to put a little bit of this, put a little shadow above, a little bit more shadow where the two merge. Let's see what happens with my stump. A lot of times I'll actually use my finger to blend this. When you have a large area and you get away with it, use your finger. Some people say not to, because you dispel a little bit of oil with your finger. Every time you do that, your finger dispenses just a little bit of rosin or oil. I don't think it's enough to really distort the imagery, and I'm not worried too much about it. If it's a little bit too much, you take your handy dandy eraser and work it in a bit. Again, this part of the arm, there is a muscle there. It pops out that just a little bit much. You don't want to make a big deal out of it. Now, the other part is the hand. This is fun. Again, I'm not looking at anything. I'm pretty much winging it. I could always make changes on this if I look at it later and I say, whoa, I don't think I like that. But the key is just to grab a basic feeling. Let's not make his hand look ridiculously impossible. It is a caricature, though. We're not looking at anything realistic, and yet it's got to look like it has the potential to be realistic. Every cartoon only works if there's just enough there to make it plausible. There are some things today, some of the cartooning today is rather extreme. But even in the most extreme, there's something that holds it together. I watch some stuff like South Park. I don't call that cartooning so much as it's cutouts. but there's still something there. There's some assemblage of reality, be it as extremely odd as it can be, but there's something. So what I'm doing is putting a little shadow between the fingers. Enough to make the hand pop out. I'm going to take the pencil now and really darken the edges to make it pop out of the frame. The one thing that's important about any caricature, any type of thing, is I like putting a nice edge on my pictures. I like seeing the hand pop out of the picture. So everything around it has to be on its own to a degree. It cannot be totally blended. It has to have some degree of identification. Okay, we're working on the left color. Now I can proceed to this and work on the bonsai plant. Looks pretty good. The key is not to make the shadow on each part of the muscle too dark. You have to have a semblance of order in the muscle. One is a little bit dark, the other one's darker. Let's take a look at the bonsai again. Here's my reference. I don't know bonsai plants, so I have to have a reference for this. Hopefully it'll work out good. The way I do a bonsai plant, especially this one, it's an informal upright, a Pinus parviflora. Obviously I don't know Latin too well. Japanese white pine. And what I do, the way I draw it so it looks individual, I take each one of these quills and I draw them individually. Instead of separate lines, I do something called, well, the way I refer to it, I like to have a nice separate identity to each one of these quills, so I put two lines, one right next to the other. It really works, because later on when you want to shade this, you could always put a little shade between those two lines. I do that with hair. I do that with grass. I don't like when people just draw a multitude of single lines. It's kind of difficult to actually figure out where it's going to end up. If you draw these individual lines, rather, if you draw them together the way I'm doing, it really works. You could put shading between the two of them. You can make them work in harmony. I guess I should take a moment and show my latest grouping of caricatures that I've done. These are all 20 years old and up. And I did these when I worked at the Herald in New Britain. I did a lot of these when I was there. I had to do drawings like once a week for individual sections. For individual sections of the paper. Entertainment sections, food sections, editorial sections. But I brought in some, these are 25 years old, some of them. And it's kind of fun. Let's go start from the end. The one at the very end is a very dear friend of mine. His name is Tim Luddy. Didn't appear in the paper, but you could see what you could do with a caricature. You could even use it to, instead of mailing a Christmas card, you could make a drawing of your best friend, and boy, I tell you, you're going to have that for the rest of your life. It's great. Ella Fitzgerald, I did that for the entertainment section. I guess she was appearing somewhere. I don't even remember the circumstances. I did so many caricatures. She was appearing somewhere in concert, probably towards the end of her life, I would imagine, and I had to do a caricature of her. Frankly, I'm not very pleased with it, but hey, 25 years ago, I had 2 days to pull them out. I didn't have a lot of time. James Beard, I had to do the food for the food page. Again, the food editor wanted me to do, she was probably writing a critique on one of his books. She wanted a caricature of him. I did him. And I kind of had the idea of him sitting in a soup ladle. You know, when you have 2 days to pull off a drawing, it come up quick. I did Bogart on a separate occasion. I really, really liked that character. To me, he was the perfect example of cinematic. To me, it was the best, and I did it in such a way that you could see it stands out from the rest because I really wanted it to be special. Sting was a character. I think it was a review for a movie. He was in a movie called Dune. It was the first movie I'd done since he left police, and I kind of did a caricature of him. I put him in the same outfit he wore in the movie, and I had parts of it from one of the videos he had done for the police. I think it was Synchronicity. Peter Tosh was a singer that was appearing, I believe, in Hartford. Believe it or not, the Columbia Music Hall. That's how old this is. He was appearing at the Columbia Music Hall, and they needed a review of his appearance. I did the drawing of it, which was better still. And from all that, Neil Sedaka. Goes to show you the entire spectrum of what you have to do. Now some of these I exactly had 2 or 3 days to do it in. It wasn't a case where I had a lot of time or a lot of input. They hardly ever gave me. I had to do my own research, and I think some of them still hold up pretty good. Thank God I don't have to have the same pressure on me now to perform. The Herald was quite a learning experience. I had to do sometimes 3 drawings a week. Now, I don't have that same situation now, so I take a great deal of time with my drawings, and it shows. Okay, here we go. Back to the bonsai. We're going to do more individual parts of this till it all flows out. I did a nice drawing of it to begin with. So basically I'm just going off the outline. By the way, I have at least 100 of those caricatures at home, and next time I film my next episode, I'll probably have a few more to bring out. I'm going to try to bring some of the later ones the next time, and you'll see the difference. They really are remarkable. The stuff I do now is 10 times more intricate, and I have to say, when you have more time to spend on your work and you have more time to think about positions to put them in and situations to make these characters work, it's pretty good. But I have to tell you, considering how little time I had to work on these guys, some of them turned out pretty good. I'm not too embarrassed. There are some I'm pretty embarrassed about. But again, remember, sometimes I had 2 days to do some of these. And that alone, that is just a mind-blowing thought. To have 2 days to do a drawing like that. Again, some of that early stuff was really horrible. I'm amazed I was able to pull it off. And the sad thing is, too, I really feel sorry for artists today. They don't have the same type of learning experience I did. It's quite the learning experience to have to do 2 or 3 drawings a week. And everything. If they want to do a drawing of the Mayor of New Britain, you have to do a drawing of the Mayor of New Britain. It was not easy. All right, so you can see we're getting progress with the bonsai. Individual little planes. The good thing about having time to pick and choose the characters you want to do is that you could be really intricate and detailed and correct. A lot of times at the Herald, you didn't have time to really be too correct with a lot of these things, and it showed. It really did show, because some were just terrible. I admit it. But I can only say I had hours to do research. I had to do all my own research. Very rarely did somebody come up to me and say, hey, we got all this ready for you. It didn't work that way. With this bonsai, actually, because there's such an open area here, I'm actually going to put a little bit, another branch out here, just to make it, and yet it'll still work. It's not going to look ridiculous. So, here we go. The good thing too is you can actually put a couple of these bristles from beneath. It's going to work out nice. Every now and then I have to sharpen up the tip. Do that by just honing a little bit on the paper. When I do this in ink, you'll see a bigger difference. I'll probably really make the tonality. I'll make some of these individual hairs or bristles much tighter. With pencil, you can't really do that. You could just hope. And I'll probably use a .30 pen tip. I'm being good though. I'm using all Staedtler products. This is a Staedtler pencil. And I like using Staedtler pens when I do my rapidograph work. I could use other brands. It's not like religion with me, but I do have my favorites. All right, so we're going to have one breakage. We're going to have this break here, and there is going to be a gap there. Sometimes it's a really interesting gap with bonsai plants. It's like a interesting scene, very dramatic little area. I like that way that's turning. Got to keep honing it down. As you can see, we're going to do a couple of these here now. It's fun to, the fun thing about bonsai plants, there's kind of a, hard to really pin it down, but it's kind of a very dramatic little motion to them. Especially the pine ones. I really didn't appreciate it until I started drawing them. But there's kind of an interesting little motion. You can almost swear that there's a wind blowing the plant into the position it's standing in. And the fact that it's a miniature, God. I can see why people adore them. But I gotta tell you, my favorite is the pine. They are really incredible to look at. Now, I think what I could do is actually break off from this. We'll finish it later because it is rather boring. So let's get to the arm. Finish that off so you can see where I'm going. The arm actually goes behind the plant. So what we're going to do is indicate where it would be. I think I'm going to actually, well, let's see something. I'm going to put a few more of these quills going this way. That's a good thing about, well, some people say that being a realist is a trap. I don't think it's a trap, because I actually can do so much with I could play reality to whatever I want it to be. It's not a trap for me. I love it. And again, next time, we're actually going to finish this off completely. And in a couple episodes in the future, we're actually going to ink it. And you'll see such a dramatic difference. What I want to do when I go home is I'm actually going to photograph this now, the way it looks in pencil. Because it's going to be a great difference. It's going to be day and night. Some people swear you should have left the pencil alone, it was better. Most people say, wow, I can see the difference. It does make a difference. Personally, the reason I like to do it in ink, if you want to make copies of this, and you want to make, let's say, reductions, you can't do that to a pencil. The procedure is almost lithographic, and it costs a lot of money. Pen and ink, my God, it's we're talking pennies on the dollar as far as the cost. I'm joking, it's obviously a lot more than pennies, but the cost is not prohibitive. It's a lot easier. And you can make it, you can reduce it down to a business card and it holds up. Lithography, it'll hold up and it's going to be so fine. You use pen and ink, it's always going to hold up. It's going to be great. I've done such small drawings of people and it always show up. All right, let's get this thing going. When the arm is done, you're going to see such a difference. All right, we're also going to put an indication where the shoulder is by putting that line there. It's all going to be shadow between the quills. If that was a straight line, I couldn't get that effect, because it would go right into the lines and it'll be all mishmash. This works out better. And the quills still have an individual little presence. Looking good. The trick is going to be really to make sure when I ink this, this double line is going to be effective. We're also going to have to work on the hand. Bonsai looks pretty good.
George?
Yep. Yep. We're almost going here. I like the fact that the shadow is going to work out really nicely behind. We don't have to do too much detail with the arm. It's going to work out better without too much. Let's put this line in for the shoulder, this line for the collar, and we're going to be all squared away with that. I could put another little shadow there. Well, anyway, you get to see what's going on. And again, this is just the pencil part of it. You're going to actually see more intricacies with the pen and ink part. And if anybody's interested in this, I teach a class at the Farmington River School of Art, right here in Plainville. Be glad to have anybody join, come aboard. Every Sunday from 1 to 4. They also teach privately, but I really don't want to really add on too many. All right, well, the next thing is going to be, we're going to actually work on the, all right, well, we can see what's going to happen. We're basically just working on the hand. The next one is the left hand, and that's going to be it. The next episode will probably finish the entire fella in pencil. And then the next couple of series, the next couple episodes will actually ink it, and you can see the dramatic difference. I wish you people could actually memorize this at night, but it's going to be tough.